Akhetaten's Gates, Chapter 18. Oh, how hot the day was! No amount of shelter or shade was able to ease the intense heat. Even the waters that provided cool escape on so many a hot day was now warm to the touch. So exact was the temperature that any attempt to drink felt like as if we were drinking air. If not for the sensation of a liquidy swallow, we would have believed such a thing. As for Akhetaten, Tepi had taken her away with him to a much cooler and entertaining place. I wanted to kick myself for not going with them. Anything had to beat this. As for my husband and myself, we were in the very hot shade of the garden. I didn't know about him, but I felt like I was wilting. Sweating and sweating. This was not an enjoyable pastime. It made me feel dirty, even though my dress was transparent. Even that was too much. I felt disgusting to have the fabric stick to me like that. Yuck! Amenhotep was slumped back in his seat, sinking into it. His head hung limply over the back of it. Nefertiti. Yes? It's really hot. Even for me. It's hot. No shit! Nefertiti. Yes? Why is it so hot? We live on the outskirts of the Egyptian desert, Amenhotep. Nefertiti. What, damn it, what? I love you. Shut up! Nefertiti. I'm going to smother you while you sleep tonight, I threatened. I thought of a name, he stated, sitting up and readjusting the crown that had nearly fallen off in such an awkward position. Yes, you did that years ago, I replied. That crazy name. Nefer-Kippy Wingerswat or whatever. I want a name that I can hear from your lips, he frowned. No. He peered up at the sun, shielding his eyes. That was a rather moot motion, Amenhotep. I've made my decision. This morning, as Aten rose over the horizon, it spoke to me. It told me many, many things. Aten, it is the only God for me. It told me that my father would be dying soon, and once and for all, I would be on the throne as Pharaoh. With me would come about a whole new world. To begin my new reign and honor it, I should bestow upon myself a new name. And that name is? I asked. Akhetaten, he said. I am the living spirit of the Aten. It is our savior, and I will show my gratitude. You sound like some sort of prophet, I remarked. I am born of the Aten, he stated. That is why I am as I am. Amun came into my father, so as to plant the seed in my mother. From it came Tutmose. Aten came into my father to plant the seed into my mother. From it came me. Aten is greater and stronger than Amun. Do you believe it? Aten certainly does, I muttered. I must share it with my people. It's a deal, I sighed. You chose a name that I could pronounce, so from here on out I shall do as you wish, letting it fall from my lips. You are Akhetaten. And of my regime? Do whatever you like, I sighed. I will do as you say if Aten can cool this garden down. He gave a soft chuckle. But, as if on cue, a breeze came over the garden, whispering over and over our sweaty bodies. Is this proof enough for you? I let out a very happy sigh. Ah, cool air. I'm pleased. And now bound. I glanced at him. Don't be so cocky. Besides, I already told you before that I believed you about the Aten. I let out a small yawn, letting a silence fall over the garden. Are you thinking? He asked suddenly. Sort of. What is it that you are seeking? I smiled as brightly as I possibly could. I love Akhetaten. She is the most wonderful thing I have ever made. That we have made, he corrected. I agree. I want another baby. Akhetaten. Let's have another baby. He gave a patient sigh and smiled. It's not for our lack of trying until recently, Nefertiti. You know very well I would love nothing more than to grant this wish upon you. All I can do is try and try again, but no promise can I make. I can't exactly create a pregnancy on demand. All right, I replied simply. Then the only solution is to make love every night until we get what we want. Yikes! You'll be the very death of me, he whined. If I must ejaculate so frequently, I fear I'll be as skinny as my father. Why? I demanded, undetermined if I was offended or not. Do you perhaps grow bored of making love to me? No, not at all, he panicked, shielding himself. It's nothing like that, but that is an awful lot of pressure. It really should be love, not a duty to be demanded of me. If I have to do it, I may not want to. I may not enjoy it. I may feel like a piece of livestock. Haven't you ever wanted to go somewhere? Just for the joy of the ride? I asked. Well, yes, but I mean... Oh, he was getting rather bashful. How cute. I gave him a coy stare. Well, maybe when it starts to cool down, we can start trying again. No, I purred. No? No. Oh. The wonderful thing about men is that they had bodies that spoke so clearly about their desires. He may have been nervous and intimidated by my behavior, but he was certainly willing. I could see it. I got out of my seat and scooted myself onto his knees. I untied his belt. I gave a giddy giggle as he gulped. I freed him from his kilt, and then I untied my dress, sliding it off in a sexy manner. He was getting rather eager, but hesitated like a well-trained doggy. This was fun. This was something new. We had never done it this way before, out here in the open. But this didn't stop us, and we showed no qualms about giving in to ourselves in this place. Mommy, Akhetaten called, squeezing into the conservatory where her father and I were talking with Tepi. I had only arrived a few minutes prior myself, after having visited the physician. I was awaiting a clear diagnosis, or a clear answer, though somehow I doubted I would get anything clear out of the physician's findings, except clear gibberish. Right now, he was alone, having an intense and heated argument with himself, of which I was not interested in seeing. So, now I heard talking of another sort as Akhetaten approached. All talking then ceased. The child's curiosity was a higher priority. I was playing in the harem with Akhetaten and the other children. There were some that I hadn't seen before. That's not a surprise, Akhetaten replied. There are many women in the harem, and many children of different ages. The harem is a big place. There are children there that even I do not know. Your grandfather had many children. You actually may know more of them than I do. They asked if I was one of them, she said. And what did you tell them? I said that I was the king's daughter, but I don't think they understood me. I suppose it's a logical thing to say, Akhetaten replied. With two kings on the throne, it may be very confusing to them. They are all children of the elder king, my father. They are my siblings. Am I a sibling? He gave a chuckle. No, Akhetaten. They are your aunts and uncles. What is a sibling anyway? She asked a little gruffly. A sibling is a brother or sister, he smiled. Oh, she replied with a deflated tone. I don't have any siblings. No, not yet, he chuckled. But maybe someday. We would like for you to have many siblings. Akhetaten came over to him and knelt down, resting her head in his lap. In response, he started to stroke her face. Daddy, I want a sibling. Good things come to those who are patient, my princess, Tepi remarked. Waiting is hard, she sighed. Yes, Tepi laughed. Yes, it is. It is very hard, but it is very important. When can I stop waiting? Akhetaten scooped her up and set her on his lap. I don't think even the wise Tepi has that answer. Indeed, Tepi nodded. but I don't think it's a matter of when. I think we are always waiting forever for something. I watched them silently. This made me smile so proudly. Family time. That's what it was all about. This sort of thing transcended time. But that moment, we looked like any family, and I loved it. But then I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. It was one of my handmaidens, peering in warily at us. I smiled back at her and bade her to enter. Akhetaten merely nodded to acknowledge her presence before returning his attention to Akhetaten. Highness, I was sent by Khufu to... Has Khufu finally stopped talking to himself? I teased the nervous child. She, of course, was referring to my physician. What does he have to say? Something about a spider. Okay, she lost me. What? He said something about spiders, building complex spider webs, and waiting for the right moment to strike at their prey and suck them dry. Wait, I interrupted. Khufu told you to tell me this? Forgive me, Your Majesty. I was hoping that you perhaps knew what he was talking about, she stammered, kneeling humbly. Spiders, I muttered. Is everything all right? Akhetaten asked. I'm still debating that issue, I sighed, rubbing my forehead. Khufu was talking crazy again. I went for a headache once, he replied, almost absently. He told me this strange story about a lion that ate a tree. Or was bald. Or something. For years, he's been telling my father about dancing baboons. Maybe he should retire, I suggested. He's always been like that, Tepi stated. I don't know why he does that. When T was pregnant with His Young Highness, Khufu told her about a bean that turned into a dragonfly. Oh, so that's why my sister always called me a bean, Akhetaten realized. He then perked as Akhetaten giggled insanely. Why were you going to Khufu in the first place? Are you feeling ill? I'm going to be if this keeps up, I sighed. Should I be worried? Only for him. Why did you go to him? Tepi asked. I mean, if you don't mind telling me. I then realized it. I knew what the meaningless jabber meant. I understand. Akhetaten, I'm pregnant. Pregnant? He asked with a confused blink. Are you sure? I'm sure of it. I'm with child. I felt it. I just felt it in my gut, and I wanted to confirm it, and I did. I'm going to have a baby. Ugh, that sounds so like him, Tepi muttered. Nefertiti, that's wonderful, Akhetaten beamed. He shut up and swung Akhetaten around, who found this a lot of fun and very amusing. He then held her high over his head victoriously. Akhetaten, another child shall be born of your mother. You may very well have the sibling you seek. Praise be to Aten and my virility. Daddy, you're silly, she laughed. You're funny. Congratulations to you, Your Majesties, Tepi finally said with a bow. This is wonderful news for such a touchy situation. Akhetaten gasped, setting Akhetaten down. Tepi, I'm so sorry. I feel horrible for brushing it all aside. I mean, I'm happy and I want to be happy, but... He wiped his face. Oh, I don't know. It's perfectly all right. A break was needed, Tepi smiled. My husband frowned. I've ruled by my father's side for years. What am I? You'll do fine, Tepi assured. You've grown over the years, and you shall continue to improve. People are looking to you for direction now. Akhetaten, are you sure? That's an awfully bold order. Make it so, he insisted. I wish to make an important announcement. Tepi, see to it that my father's temple is completed. He then began to march to the conservatory doors. Where are you going? Tepi asked. Amenhotep III is not going to be with us much longer. My mother is in mourning. I am going to them. It is only right that I spend his last moments at his side. He turned to me as Tepi bowed. Nefertiti, will you come? I don't think Akhetaten is old enough to handle that sort of thing, I replied. Tepi can take her someplace more appropriate, he said. I would really appreciate your support. I will go with Amenhotep and young princess if you wish, the handmaiden offered. I gave a defeated sigh. Very well. I'll go with you, Akhenaten. He opened his arms, embracing me, and then he led me along. Meriadoten was rather oblivious to our sorrowful mood, and was more than happy to do something fun with Tepi. Akhenaten was silent as we made our way to his father's chambers. He was afraid, anxious, and a little understandably upset. So much was happening now, and it would come down to this. So much was happening now, and it would come down to this, wouldn't it? He hesitated when we reached the king's chambers. The room was rather dark, dimly lit by the small lamps. I could see clearly despite it, but Akhenaten swayed a little. He knew it would be dark, didn't he? He needed another pair of eyes, didn't he? I took him by the arm, leading him along so he would not trip over furniture or run into a column. But he wasn't as helpless as I would have expected. He may not have been able to see well, but he was not foreign to the layout of the room, and his hearing was very good. He followed the sounds of his mother's sobs, and my lead. She peered up at him when he approached. "Oh, my son, come sit by your mamma." Her face was taut and flushed. Her eyes were red and worn. She was in the position that every wife hates. Akhenaten sat beside her at his father's bedside. The old man gave a worn-out sigh. "You don't have to say anything, father. I know it hurts." Tears had started to streak his face as well. Still, his father gave a grunt, trying to speak, but Akhenaten spoke over him. "I'm going to finish your temple. I swear I will be all the king I can be." The dying king gave a painful nod. "I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused." I suddenly began to cry as well. It touched me. Over the years, their relationship had been between horrible and mediocre at best. But deep down, they did love each other. To my surprise, Amenhotep opened his eyes and turned to his son. "Son," he mumbled, speaking through clenched teeth. "No matter what I said to you, I'm very proud of you." To that, he reached over to take his son's slender fingers into his hand. "Where do I go from here?" Akhenaten asked. "How can I do this by myself?" "You've been doing it this far," he replied. "You are not alone. You still have your mother for a while." He paused and gave a loud, tired swallow. "And you have your wife. She is a strong woman. They are both strong women." Akhenaten glanced towards me, tears streaming down his face. I wasn't modest of my own. I wasn't even sure if Akhenaten was able to really see me, or simply knew from what direction he had left me. "You're not alone, my son," Amenhotep repeated, trying to continue. "You have your own family now. I never got anywhere in life clinging to my father's leg. Go, be king. Have fun. Do whatever you feel is the right thing. You are Egypt." Akhenaten nodded. "I swear it. I'll build things that nobody would believe. I shall be the most renowned king of this dynasty." Amenhotep forced a smile. "Leave it to those damn foreigners," he said sarcastically. "I've still not received Ishtar, or the new bride." "Don't worry about it," T sighed. "Just worry about now." "I don't need to worry, T. My kingdom is in good and capable hands. And I can rest and meet Osiris in the west." He pulled T close and kissed her as best as he could. "I love you, T. You are always my favorite. Keep the boy in line, won't you?" She sniffled and gave a painful nod as she sobbed. And with that, he closed his eyes and fell silent. That was it. He was gone. T was silent a moment, then began to wail furiously. Despite all the attitude and arguing, he was the love of her life, and he was gone. Akhenaten wrapped his arms about her, offering her whatever comfort he could. The mummification process of His Majesty Amenhotep III took a duration of 70 days. After 70 days, an elaborate funeral procession began with successors and mourners in pursuit. There were true mourners, with tea in the lead, but there were also hired mourners as well, wailing and throwing sand in their faces in despair. Akhenaten held me close. He was dressed so elaborately, Capresh crown on his head. I hid my face into his shoulder. Merodachn was present as well, and rather confused. She had never experienced a funeral before. She simply stood staring as she placed her hands on my bulging belly. I heard approaching footsteps and lifted my gaze. Tepi. "My pharaoh, we are ready for you." Akhenaten gave a nod, released me, and led us forward. We didn't progress far before T's voice shattered the morning. Between outbursts of sobs, she insulted the priest as she barked out orders. "Don't drop it! Be careful! Show the utmost respect for dead kings, you pigs!" she shouted at the mortuary priests. They politely ignored her, trying to focus on their jobs. She rushed over to Akhenaten on sight and buried her face into his chest. "You're here!" "Of course I'm here, Mother. I'm here, and I'm ready." She took a moment to regain herself. She stood tall and handed him the crooked flail. Merodachn left me at this point and took hold of his kilt, beginning to bounce at his feet. "Daddy, I want to come too." He knelt down to be at her level. "You can't be with me now, Princess. I have some very important things to do." "But Daddy, please, I want to help." "I know you do. But this is something that only I can do, Merodachn." At least he tried explaining it. "This is a very important ceremonial rite." "How come I can't help Grandpa go to the stars? Why not?" "Merodachn, please, don't do this right now. Stay with your mother and grandmother until I return." I believe Akhenaten had forgotten something very important about Merodachn. She was as hot-headed and stubborn as her grandmother. She could argue every which way to next Tuesday. But Akhenaten was not about to entertain such a notion. When he stood tall, ignoring her pleas, Merodachn threw herself to the ground in one of the most violent temper tantrums I had ever seen. His face darkened as he glared down at her. Swiftly, he turned away, using every ounce of his control to keep himself together. It would not do for him to give in to his sensitivity and cry now. He had to be the living Horus, and he had to appear strong. "Merodachn," I called. "Get up and come over here. You can get hurt out there." "No, no, no, no!" she screamed and flailed about. "Damn it, Nefertiti, pick her up!" Akhenaten roared. I flinched back and felt T's hands lay on my back. He had never raised his voice to me like that before. It scared me. I had never seen him so angry. But, wanting to avoid any further fury, I rushed forward. This was absolutely mortifying and very uncomfortable, and in front of everybody. I felt all eyes on me as I tried to pick her up. This was a very difficult task, what with me being pregnant and with her flailing about so wildly. "Pick her up!" he demanded. "I'm trying!" I shouted in embarrassed sobs. T rushed to my side, giving me some seriously needed assistance. Akhenaten turned furiously away, calling over some of the servants that had followed him. "Take them home," he ordered. "But my pharaoh," one of the courtiers began. "Damn it, is everyone going to be incompetent today? Take them home!" The courtier stumbled over to the three of us, highly intimidated. He attempted to gather us up, but found that even with three of us, Merodachn was just too wild to grab. It took several minutes before I was able to grab Merodach's wrists and peered up at Akhenaten. He looked furious and disgusted, turning his back on us once more. The courtier and T grabbed into Merodach's legs just as I was beginning to lose my grip. Tepi suddenly rushed over, trying to offer his assistance. He helped me to hold her up her body. Some of the onlookers, despite the funeral, were rather amused by this scene. A real family completely out of control, enthralled with chaos. Others were understandably appalled. In the end, it took 7 courtiers to escort us home, where we were guarded, and where we were to await the return of my husband, Akhetaten, the one and only king of Egypt.